as Nat. This is my friend Maddie. She's done a 100-hour project and she wants to tell us about it. So go ahead and tell us what a 100-hour project is and what you chose to do for yours.
Yeah, okay. So a 100-hour project is choosing a goal or a task or a project and completing it for 100 hours or seeing how far you can get with it in 100 hours. And I chose to perform An Iliad, which is a one-person show, for my 100-hour project.
Yes, and I saw the show. It was very good. 100-hour projects. I've only done 2 ever, but it's just a fun way to learn and like feel like you're progressing in something, right?
Yeah.
Because I think, I don't know who's out, but 10,000 hours is what you need to become a master in something, right? So 100 hours really gives you a good, like, I don't know, feeling.
Yeah.
You know, it really gets you somewhere, and it's not just an amateur thing anymore. You kind of know more of the subject. So was this like your first time doing theater, or had you kind of dabbled before? What was that like?
So I got into theater, like really into seeing live theater around 5 years ago. And that's actually when I first saw An Iliad. That was like hook, line, and sinker for me. Like my sister and I, we saw it together at the Utah Shakespeare Festival when they were producing it in their 2018 season.
Right.
And we had no idea. Like our friends were like, get a student pass, and they're like, we're going to see An Iliad tomorrow. And we're like, all right. Was like totally unprepared for what I saw. Like it was crazy. Like even thinking about it 5 years later, I'm just like, whoa.
It was mind-blowing.
It was crazy. And it like changed, like this sounds dramatic, but it like changed the course of my life forever. That's when I started to get into like seeing live theater, and I just kind of fell in love with it like all the way. And ever since then, it was my dream to be in a theatrical production of some kind, but I didn't really have a ton of time. Growing up, I was a gymnast. I did gymnastics in college, so that like took my whole life, which I loved. Gymnastics is just still like my first true love. So it wasn't until 2022 that I did my first play. So I did a show in January and I did a show in June, and then An Iliad was my 3rd ever production.
Ever performance?
Yeah, unless you count like being Becky in 5th grade in Tom Sawyer, then maybe it's my 4th.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I think that I had a show in 4th grade too, and I was like a cat.
Yeah, right?
But that's funny. It's funny that you chose theater as your 100-hour project, because theater is like my first love, like gymnastics is for you. And so like when you messaged me and told me that you were doing that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting, I love theater, get into it, you know? And it really was so cool. I was working at I don't know if I ever told you this, but I was working at the Shakespeare Festival the season that the Iliad played.
No way, yeah, you didn't tell me that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, I wasn't like in a show or even backstage,
still.
but I was around, I was counting people at the seminars. But it was an incredible show, and I get why it changed your life, because it was really so good.
Yeah.
But yours is the second time I've ever seen An Iliad, and it was beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I cried. it's all by the point, but you did a great job. So tell us about like the process of learning An Iliad for you, because you read the book and you also you memorized and performed the show.
Yes.
So was it daunting? Like, how did you feel starting out?
Yeah, so actually from the beginning, my first like project idea was just to memorize it, because my sister had gifted it to me for Christmas, December 2021, and I didn't get to reading it until like January, end of January. And then I remembered my roommate getting like a giveaway from when you like did candy making.
Yep.
And she like told me it was this girl who did a 100-hour project, and I was like, well, what if I memorized An Iliad for my 100-hour project? I decided I would read the Iliad at Homer and then memorize. And then I got like 25 hours in, which is when I messaged you and was like, I think I'm gonna perform it. Like, that's crazy. And I was like, but I think I'm gonna try it. Because as I was memorizing it, I was like, you know, picturing the production I saw, but also like imagining myself like acting it out and doing it. And it just felt very exciting. And I was like, why not? So I, you know, emailed people around to find a space, and I talked to your sister-in-law Noelle to direct later on, found my muse and everything. So it started out different than what it ended up being, but it ended up being what it needed to be.
When you first sent me that message, I was like so giddy. I think I told my mom, I told my dad, I was calling everybody. I was like, somebody else is doing it, this is so cool. And I was really excited. about it. So, and honestly, like, no better person to start than you. It was so cool to watch you. And just like the whole process, like following along, it was really fun. But yeah, so was there any part of the learning process that was like unexpected, or like any part that you felt like you couldn't do it?
So in the beginning, reading it was daunting because it's a thick book. It's pretty thick, but it was really cool to read it in conjunction with the play, because the play is obviously based off of it, but only in like the part about Achilles and Hector. But to get a lot more context from the book for the show was really cool. So it obviously took a while to read. I think it was like half of my project just reading it. Yeah, like marking it up and stuff. Memorizing it, like before the thought of performing it came into my mind, I was like, alright, like I can do it. Like, it's actually cool. I emailed Dennis O'Hare, who's the co-writer, and he emailed me back, which was crazy. And he was like, it's a mammoth undertaking, but not impossible. And I was like, alright, okay, I can do it. So, you know, from the guy himself. But like while memorizing, it was daunting for sure, because you know, I'd like, alright, I have 3 pages memorizing, just keep flipping through. It's like a 50-page
Oh my
play.
gosh, yeah,
And I'm like, how am I gonna have all of this in my brain? And then part 4 is the crazy part with like the rage fever, and that was like so intimidating.
Yeah.
Because that is like big emotion to play. So that was definitely daunting. And then once I got closer to the performance date, you can ask my friend, he helped me like memorize. I texted him around like September, and I was performing in October, and I was like, bro, I am so freaked out. Like, I don't think I can do this. Even though like I told people about it, like I had it all memorized at that point. You know, I was like ready, but I was freaking out. He like would send me like pep talks every so often.
Aww.
But it was definitely intimidating because I was like getting in my head about it, even though I knew it was in me. But getting in my head like, you know, people are gonna think, who does she think she is doing this one-person show, even though she's
especially
not
your
professionally
third
trained.
show. Yeah, I understand how you feel that way.
So just like the imposter syndrome of it all, and like just like the fear of like there's judgment of any kind, but then taking a step back and realizing, you know what, these people are probably thinking, wow, that's crazy that she's doing that, but how crazy cool that she's doing that. And even like the day of, I was backstage, if you will, in the little space, and I was looking out through the like window and the door, and I was seeing people file in, and I was like,
oh my gosh,
what have I done? Like, I have done this to myself. Why am I doing this? So yeah, there was lots of mixed emotions about it. Mostly though, I was just really excited because this show meant a lot to me. It was something I've been working on for a long time.
Yeah.
So it was just cool to like have it be culminated in that experience, and to think, wow, like this didn't even start out as the end goal, but like look where it turned up. So
how do you feel like the experience affected your relationship with theater in general, and theater moving forward? Because I've seen you in a couple shows since.
It was definitely just this beautiful like full circle moment to like do the show that like got me really into live theater. This was like a different kind of show, and just knowing like that I did it in general, and that I did it like by myself, you know, with the help of a few friends and stuff, was like, oh, I can like do anything, you know?
Yeah, it's very empowering.
Yeah, and then with theater, it's like no one's telling me to do it, no one's paying me to do it. Like, this is like obviously something I'm very passionate about. So just like taking that and running with it, and like finding different projects that I enjoy. I actually signed up for an acting class at SUU.
Oh,
for fun.
you did? That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm in an acting class. It's super fun. So just like finding those opportunities to pursue it, just because I enjoy doing it. It's exhilarating. It's a thrill. Like it's, and to tell like that story that feels very important to me was just really remarkable. Like I hope I can do it again sometime because I like crave it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that 100-hour projects are really good at creating like those passions, like you said, and being so into theater now and taking an acting class and pursuing it more. I think it's so cool. With my projects, it's been weird because once the 100 hours is up, I'm like, okay, next project. But now I'm like, oh, but I want to make candy again. And it's like, and I know when I'm done spray painting, I'll want to paint again. And even for a while after, people would be like, oh, are you still making candy? Are you still doing that? But I do think it's a great way to like not only learn new things, but just create new passions and like grow that way. Do you think 100-hour projects will be more of your future, or do you think that you've just discovered a new passion for this?
I'm definitely gonna do more. Like I'm like thinking of like 100-hour projects I can do over the summer. I have like a list on my phone with like all these things. It was just like so helpful to like have a time goal, which is like, you know, one of the SMART goals they say is like time.
Yeah.
And it was just so helpful because like anytime I sat down to read, I turned on my timer, I would turn it off. Anytime I went to memorize, same thing.
Yeah.
And it was really rewarding to see like the time add up and see, wow, like I've gotten this far in this much time, or I still have this much to go. How can I like, you know, really make my time worthwhile? And it just kept me accountable. Like I feel like I'll start a lot of things, but like not end up finishing them. But I mean, with the goal in mind to perform, that was like a pretty, you know, good reason to like finish. But even without that, even just to memorize, like if I hadn't performed it, I think the 100 hours would have gotten me there anyway, because I was like, it was something, like it was a project I was passionate about, which I think is really important, and it was one I wanted to finish, and the 100 hours kept me like on top of it. And it actually worked out great because like by around performance time I was at like 97, so I was like, alright, like I like did all that in 100 hours, like kind of cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think that 100-hour projects are really effective in motivating you to keep going. Because I've been kind of testing it with exercising too. Even if I exercise for 15 minutes, that adds to my time, right?
Yeah.
And so even if you're making tiny baby steps of effort, like you're still progressing over time, and it will add up, like you said. And I don't know, it's helped me a lot. It seems like it's helped you. I think that it's a cool way to stay focused and to be able to move forward. Because even if you miss a week of not doing your project, you can still go back and you still have the progress. You didn't lose anything.
Exactly.
Just keep gaining the more that you go. Can you walk us through like the process of learning An Iliad? I know that you kind of said, the reading and the memorizing, but were there deeper components to the lighting or making sure like the blocking was accurate or things like that? How did that go for you?
So I think the biggest thing was like, okay, this is all very new to me. On the side, I learned how to get rights for a show and, all that licensing stuff, which was another neat skill. And then just like finding those characters, because I like knew they were, like, I knew it was in me to portray them. Like, I knew I could do it, but like physicalizing it and being confident in that was very, very vulnerable because I'd never done it before. It was scary to like show that and try that for people. Putting myself out there like that was really vulnerable. And then just like practicing, just finding the time and like finding space. Like I would just do it in my backyard. I was like, my neighbors are probably like really concerned. So I'm like yelling and like, all this intense stuff. I'm like, I don't really have anywhere else. Having directions and all was brilliant. That helped loads. Just to like have someone who kind of had a shared vision with me, but also who had done this before, so she could direct me in it. And then working with my muse, Ashley, the as a muse, to help like take the audience to the story and to the place. Working with her to find music was just probably one of the most fun parts of it.
The muse also was really cool to watch just because it was clear that you had both worked together to create this beautiful story.
Yeah.
And I think that it was very effective. It was very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting the different components that go into it that you don't even probably think about initially. Like getting rights to a show and doing all the blocking and technique work and finding music. Like, there are so many things that you don't think of initially, or so many techniques that you're not aware of. I think with yours it was probably a little more straightforward too, because it kind of had a clear beginning, middle, and end to the project.
Yeah.
But I find it very fun to figure out like, what is the big finale that I can do for my project? Like, spray paint, I want to do a giant mural, right? And so like, I think that it's cool, and a performance is just such a cool way to finish out a project like that. I think it's awesome. With An Iliad, since it's a one-man show, how do you think it differs from like other theater? Because it's not really a musical, it's definitely a play, and it's just one person and your muse. But how does that differ from other shows that you've done or seen?
Yeah, I mean, when I saw it, it really was the first straight play I'd ever seen. I have never done another like straight play with like other actors, so that's something I want to experience, so I have something to kind of compare it to. But at least from my perspective, it's like, it's just all you. And I mean, with An Iliad, you're embodying different characters throughout the story, as well as being the poet and the narrator. So having to switch back and forth, but it's also really cool because this show isn't like there's no fourth wall. Like it's the audience is part of the story. Like I'm here, like the poet is there because the audience is there, because you know human nature hasn't changed. They have to keep telling the story. And so to have an actual audience was like, oh man, they're just as much a part of the story as I am. And to feed off of their energy, it was really cool. And so I think that's a unique part of it, where it's like they are like every actor's a storyteller, but like they're a storyteller and they're telling this specific audience here. Like, it's not just anyone, it's these people in the audience. It's all you. You just gotta trust yourself and, you know, bring in the audience as much as you can, because that's why you're there. That's why they're there.
Yeah. I think that that's the key to one-person shows in general, and I guess specifically with An Iliad, is just bringing in the audience to be a part of the story you're telling. So do you have any advice that you would give to other people wanting to start their own 100-hour project?
I mean, I would say definitely just go for it. Like 100 hours is a lot, but really it adds up really quick.
Yeah.
Find something that you've always wanted to do but have never found time for, because you'll find time when you're tracking it. And it just to know that it'll help keep you accountable, because you know we've all started things that we haven't finished.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and just find something you really want to do, something you're passionate about, something that you wouldn't normally get to do, like at work or at school or in any part of your life, and just go for it. It's gonna feel very vulnerable at the beginning because it's hard to start things. Like, it's hard to be beginner at things.
Right.
But you know, you find joy in the process of learning, and you know, you just as you get further in, like, I don't know, it just adds up and you feel good and it gets you on your way. So I feel like once you get like a quarter of the way in, you're like good to go.
Like, oh, I've got this.
Yeah, you got 25 hours in, you can finish.
I do feel like after that you've kind of gotten over all of the really difficult things that you didn't think would be problems, and now you're like, oh, now I can experiment with my own ideas rather than just do what I've learned so far. I think that is great advice. The whole reason that I started 100-hour projects in the beginning was because I see other people do really cool things and be like, oh, I want to do that. And so I'd go and try it one time and like really fail, and I'd be like, well, it's just not meant for me. I'm never gonna try it again. And so I think that with committing to 100 hours, it helps you just like get past that failure.
Yes.
Keep trying, and eventually you'll actually probably be good at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you know you're only 5 hours in, but you're like, oh, I still have 95 hours to get better at this. Like, I don't have to be good at it right away.
Exactly.
So I feel like it sets a reasonable like goal and pace for that goal to like get to it. And then if you reach it early, you can like experiment and like add a branch, or like find another way to incorporate it, or like, you know, find a new goal to add on top of it. And it can just like transform into these really cool things that take you places you never thought you'd go. So I definitely recommend.
I think that it's awesome. I love 100-hour projects, even though I'm only not even quite halfway through my second one. But I'm so excited that you chose to do one and chose to tell me about it. I feel so honored that you.
I'm so glad I did. Nat was like the biggest support. So if you're doing a 100-hour project, DM Nat, because she's gonna be like supporting you and cheering you on. It's awesome.
I'm just excited when people are excited.